But I'm going to try not to cry. I still have yet to say my testimony without crying. But I was talking to an LDS person the other day, and they were like, well, you can't preach your testimony without watering it, so it's okay. But I grew up LDS. My entire family from forever back has been LDS, so I'm pretty rooted in there, at least I was. But when I was 8 years old, I got baptized, and a week later, my mom got excommunicated from the LDS church. And that hit me pretty hard because, I didn't quite understand what excommunication was, but, I'd go to try to find her in like her early society and everything. She wouldn't be there. And I mean, my entire life growing up, I would go over and get her and then would leave. She wasn't there. And so that kind of hit me. I didn't quite understand why she wasn't, but I kind of, brushed off and went on my way. And, then all of a sudden my parents started arguing all the time about religion and stuff. And my dad was usually never home, but whenever he was home, he was arguing with my mom. And I remember one day, my dad got home from work, and my mom just went up to him and was really mad, started yelling at him and everything. And it turns out that my mom would bring home some literature that wasn't LDS, and my dad actually had gone and burned all of her books, all of everything that she had, all her videos. And so she was really mad about that. And so basically my entire life growing up, I was taught, don't question the LDS church, don't ever leave it, and if you do, this is what happens, and you can't have a happy family, and all this stuff. And so, I did not want to have that happen to me. And so, I got really into the LDS church, laurels, present, all those kind of things, to try to, get into it and actually be able to, do the whole LDS thing. And so I did that. But in the LDS church, they always teach you to, find your own testimony, don't just go off your parents. Well, when they teach you that, they try to keep you in the LDS stuff searching. Well, I had some LDS friends, not LDS friends, I had a Christian friend that moved into town, and she became Christian when she was about 9. And so she started talking to me when I was around 9 years old, and about all this Christian stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't understand what you're talking about. This is the way it is. And so, she kind of stuck with me till I was 14, 15, around there. And then TJ, who's actually my husband now, but he moved to town, and I met him my sophomore year of high school, and we became best friends. We hung out a lot, and he started talking to me about Christianity, and once again I'm like, no, you got it wrong. But he'd keep feeding me all this stuff, and obviously God's word doesn't return void, so what he was doing is planting seeds. But one day Terrell actually came up to me, and she's the girl that moved in when I was 9. But she came up to me, and we were talking for a while, and she's talking about the one God stuff, and she's like, okay, and if you can find one verse in the Book of Mormon or the Bible that ever talks about how God is 3 separate beings, like actually says they're separate and just one in purpose, I'll convert to Mormonism right now. So I'm like, okay. And I was thinking, all right, I'll go ask my seminary teacher, and he'll show me these verses, and she'll convert. Well, when I went and asked my seminary teacher, he's like, well, Ange, you really don't have any scriptural references that back that up. And I'm like, well, then why do we believe that? And he's like, well, it's because of what Joseph Smith saw in the garden. And I'm like, okay. So I'd written all the scriptures down that he said that kind of would work like that, like when he was baptized and all this stuff. And I didn't show them to her because I thought it was kind of pathetic that we didn't have it. And so I hid them and I stuck them like on my desk, and she would always come over and spend the night. And one night she was coming, and she spent the night at my house, and she found that. And she's like, yeah, what's this? And I'm like, oh, it's just those scriptures you asked for. And she's like, oh, can you explain them to me? And I'm like, not really. God for that. But that definitely hit me hard. And so then, they'd ask me other questions, and TJ started asking me questions, and Kristen, and I'd go into the library, and Samantha, we have a library, and everybody would go in there and do these whole Christian debates, and that was weird to me. But I went in there and I started listening, and they'd have all these scriptural references for everything that they believe, and all the other people wouldn't have any. So I started asking, my seminary teacher and my bishop to answer some of the questions that I had, and they didn't have any answers for me. So I just kind of brushed it off, and I ended up moving up to Provo that summer to be a nanny up there. And so I was gone, after school got out, and I stayed up there the entire time. And then pageant that weekend, I came down and I saw TJ out. Oh wait, no, I was supposed to be in Las Vegas because the people that I was nannying with, they were going to go down there on this big old trip, and they had been planning it for about 3 months. And all of a sudden, something came up to where they couldn't go. And it was totally a God thing because they ended up giving me the weekend off. And so I came down to Manti to go to the pageant. And I saw TJ out there witnessing. And that bugs me. Because every year I go out there and I see my friends that I'm best friends with all year out there telling all my other friends that they're going to hell. That, it made me mad because I didn't understand why. And so finally I just go up to TJ and I'm like, okay, TJ, sit me down and tell me what you believe. Because this is ridiculous. Why do you guys come out here and tell us that we're, doing all the stuff that's wrong? We don't do that to you, And obviously that's what you guys always hear. But, and so he sat me down and he just went through all the gospel. And usually, knowing anybody that knows TJ, he always goes through the one God passages. Now that's the stuff that Terrell always went through, and that didn't make sense to me. I didn't see how they could be different people, but for some reason, and I don't know why, but he went through the impossible gospel. And he never does that, but that's what got me. And, that hit me. I'm like, this really is. This is impossible. But, I didn't want to, I just kept looking back to how my family was. And my mom had gotten excommunicated, and I didn't want that to happen to me. I didn't want to ruin our family anymore, But we were sitting in the car because TJ, when I had seen him out there, he's like, oh, we're all going over to the Thompson's house. And if you guys ever knew, back 3 years ago, everybody always just congregated at the Thompson's house after pageant, and it'd just be this big party. And so they're like, yeah, we're going to go over there, we're going to play cards all night and everything, and you should come with us. I'm like, okay, it's not like I haven't seen the pageant a million times. So I went with them, and I sat at the desk, not the desk, their counter, and I read all of Chip's tracts. And I was just stunned at all of the differences that there really was in the LDS Church and all the contradictions. And so that started to bug me. But on the way over there, we were sitting in a car waiting for some of the other people that were going to ride with us. And I was talking to TJ, and he's all like, well, Ash, if you're right, I'm still going to go to heaven. But if I'm right, you're going to go to hell. And I'm like, what? No. And then, I don't know how it came up, but he's like, your mom's going to hell, right? According to the LDS religion, your mom's going to go to hell. And that just hit me. There's no way, nobody goes to hell in the LDS religion. And I told him that, and he's like, well, everybody but apostates. Your mom's an apostate. She left the LDS church, and she's going to go to hell. And that, that hit me, because I didn't want to ruin our family. But when he said that, I realized that my mom had already done that. So by me converting, it wouldn't change anything. And so when I had read all those tracts and everything, that was about it. And then TJ and I went out and we sat on the swing until probably about 4 in the morning and talked about the gospel. But nobody told me how you got saved. I wanted to accept Christ, but I didn't know how. And so I ended up going back up to Provo because they needed me for something. And I came back down that night, and I wanted to accept Christ. I was, I was ready, but I couldn't find Terrell because she was in France with my mom. And I couldn't find TJ. I couldn't find anybody that I knew. And finally I found a guy named Jake, and TJ had introduced me to him about 3 nights before. And so finally I found him, and I'm like, I want to accept Jesus, and I don't know how. And so he took me over and he sat me down, and he was flipping through his Bible, trying to show me all these verses, and I'm like, I don't care about the verses, I want to accept Jesus, I don't care about what it says. And so, finally he looked at me really weird. They say you always have to go fishing with a fishing pole, they don't just jump in the boat, and I kind of just jumped in the boat. And so, I accepted Jesus at the pageant, that night, and after that, I didn't tell any of my family, obviously, because my mom was in France, and I don't know where my dad was. He might have been in Korea, but I just remember my sister and I were cleaning the bathroom, and she brought up, she's like, I can't believe that mom actually is doing all this stuff, and I can't believe that she actually do this to the family and all that kind of stuff, and that she's not LDS, and I'm like, well, Kim, I'm not LDS either. And she just looked at me, and she's like, what? And she got really mad, and she's like, how did you do that? No, you're going to ruin our family even more. And then I keep remembering this verse that somebody showed me. It's in Matthew 10, 37. It says, he that loveth his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And so, I didn't care about my family anymore, because I realized Jesus is a lot more important than that. And so she was the first person I told, and then after that it just kind of exploded. But I found a new family in Christ, and Chip and Jamie kind of took me as one of their daughters. So I don't know. Christ has comforted me and just kept me to where He wants me to be. So.
Praise God.